Welcome, welcome, patrons! I'm Gilda Thalin, and today, let's listen to what has not been lost to the Thedas calendar. Perhaps not everyone had this problem, but when I first booted up Dragon Age Origins, I was confused why a ton of codex entries would state the time the entry was written, and why was it almost always 9? Eventually, I did figure it out, but it still took an embarrassingly long amount of time to figure out that it was actually the date. So this is for you, Dragon Age noobs, so you don't have to look as dumb as I did. There are 3 different calendars that the series references. The Elven calendar, used by the ancient elves of Arlathan, and which is no longer in use by the average person in Thedas. The Imperial calendar, used exclusively by the TEVINTER Imperium. And the CHANTRY calendar, which is used everywhere else, and what you're going to be coming across in the game 9 times out of 10. The Elven calendar. There's really not much to say about the Elven calendar, as much of it has actually been lost to history. World of Thedas Volume 1 only really has these things to say about it. 1, that the calendar was banned when TEVINTER sacked Arlathan and enslaved the Elven people. And 2, that scholars have found a few important dates. The first recorded date is 1 FA, which, as a side note, is never actually stated what FA stands for, but it's theorized to mean the founding of Arlathan. 1 FA is listed as the day Arlathan was founded. 3000 FA as the first elf-dwarf contact. 4500 FA as the first time humans were mentioned by the elves. And 6,405 FA when the TEVINTER Imperium was founded. So by these numbers, it would make it 8,429 FA at the beginning of Dragon Age Origins. The TEVINTER calendar. The TEVINTER calendar starts at the date the first Archon was crowned at 0 TE, which, again, we don't know what it stands for, but might be TEVINTER Empire or just TEVINTER. Anything before this time is labeled with a negative number and counted backwards. If we took the known dates from the Elven calendar and converted it to the TEVINTER calendar, it would look something like this. Negative 6,405 TE when Arlathan was founded. Negative 3,405 TE when the first elf-dwarf contact was recorded. Negative 1,905 TE when humans were first mentioned by the elves. 0 TE when the Imperium was founded. And finally, 2024 TE when Dragon Age Origins begins. As a side note, this calendar was briefly abandoned when the Imperium converted to the Andrastian religion, but was later picked back up when the TEVINTER Imperium split away from the main Chantry and created its own version. It's currently the main calendar used in TEVINTER. And finally, the Chantry calendar. The Chantry calendar is divided into 2 main sections, Ancient and Ages. The calendar marks its first date at 1-1 Divine, the date the Chantry named its first leader. Any time before this day is called the Ancient Era. Any time after this is divided into 100-year segments called Ages, ranging from 0 to 99. Each age has its own name, picked by the current divine at the end of the previous age. They pick the names by looking to the current state of Thedas and watching for signs from the Maker to help predict what will come. Currently, there are 9 ages: Divine, Glory, Towers, Black, Exalted, Steel, Storm, Blessed, and Dragon. Adding the Chantry calendar to our current comparison chart, we have negative 7,600 Ancient for when Arlathan was founded, negative 4,600 Ancient for the first elf-dwarf contact, negative 3,100 Ancient for elf-human contact, negative 1,195 Ancient for the founding of the Imperium, and currently on this chart, it's all set in the Ancient Era, so let's add some more modern dates. Obviously 1-1 Divine for when the Chantry was founded, which was in 1,195 TE and 7,600 FA. 387 Towers, so when the TEVINTER Imperium split apart from the Chantry, which was in 1,481 TE and 7,886 FA. And when Dragon Age Origins begins, it's 930 Dragon. And by the writing on the screen, you can see where my confusion has stemmed from. When writing dates for this calendar, the first number is the age number, so let's say the 9th age, Dragon, followed by a colon, then the year in that age, so let's say when Origin begins in 30, and in the proper format, followed by the actual name of the age, Dragon. So we've talked about different calendars and years, but let's talk about months. Both the Chantry and the TEVINTER calendar have 12 months with 4 seasons, with each month lasting 30 days and 360 days in a year. But what gets confusing is that each month has 2 names, a common name used by the common folk, and a high name used by scholars, courts, and just generally the rich and powerful. The high names are also originally TEVINTER names for the months. For the common months, Winter March, Guardian, Draconis, Cloud Reach, Blooming Tide, Justinian, Solus, August, Kingsway, Harvestmere, First Fall, and Haring. And for the high names, Ferimensis, Pluitanus, Nubulis, Alluviesta, Molioris, Ferventus, Solus, Matrinalis, Parvulus, Frumentum, Umbralis, and Cassus. As for weekday names, although it's never really said outright, characters actually make references to Gregorian weekday names. Whether this is a mistake in editing, or if Thedas actually uses the same name for days is unknown to us. And what about seasons? The seasons in the calendar are typical of a Northern Hemisphere seasonal pattern, with warmer months in the middle and cooler months at the ends. And here's where I get just a little bit nitpicky. Because of this, I see a lot of fans likening the Thedas calendar to our own like this, with January being likened to Winter March, and December likening to Haring. However, I believe that Thedas is actually located in the Southern Hemisphere. Let's look at a map of Thedas. Ferelden is often described as a cold place, and beyond the Kokari Wilds, it's even said that an even colder wasteland is there. Meanwhile, TEVINTER, who's up north, is described as being warm, with Parvalen described as having jungle-like terrain. If Thedas was located in the Northern Hemisphere, this would be flipped. So with that in mind, a comparison of our calendar to Thedas would look something like this, with Winter March being in our July, and Haring being our June, which gets a little confusing because the Thedas month of August isn't our August, it's actually February. And that, patrons, is all we currently know on the Thedas calendar. Do you still have lingering questions, or perhaps proof that I'm wrong on something? Or maybe comments about your own fan theory? Feel free to tweet me at @GilderThalon on Twitter, or send a PM to user Gillen on Reddit. Dareth Shiral.